We only have a few minutes, so try to be brief.
Okay. I would do absolutely anything you say.
This is David Byrne. He is the lead singer of the band Talking Heads. A quirky band even during their heyday, Talking Heads were formed by a group of art students during the New York punk scene of the 1970s. Eventually, they would implement other genres of music to their sound, such as new wave, art rock, funk, and even world music.
How did you ever think of that big suit? I like symmetry and geometric shapes. I wanted my head to appear smaller, and the easiest way to do that was to make my body bigger. It's like 60 minutes on acid.
This series of mock interviews that seemed like a proto-Adult Swim show was made for the band's concert movie, Stop Making Sense. Making $5.1 million in the box office against a $1.2 million budget, this film would go on to be considered one of the best concert films of all time. The purpose of the film was to promote their fifth album, Speaking in Tongues. The album would go on to critical acclaim and be certified platinum by the RIAA. As well, they would secure a top 10 hit with their single, Burning Down the House. Their sixth album, Little Creatures, was even more successful, selling 2 million copies, being certified 2 times platinum. Getting positive reception is nothing new to Talking Heads. Their previous albums were absolute darlings in their own right, and Burning Down the House was their second hit, with their last top 40 charter being Take Me to the River. But their first hit was a cover to an Al Green song, and their other 3 albums were modest hits at most. This was Talking Heads at their peak. This is what got them to the mainstream. Now, this video isn't focused on this point in their career, but rather the journey to this peak. Basically, how did they get here? Off their fourth album, 1980's Remain in Light, Once in a Lifetime is considered to be the band's signature tune. While not a commercial success upon its release as a single in '81, it instead found an audience through a new cable channel that premiered months later.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
Not only was this song one of the most popular music videos during the early days of MTV, it was also one of the first videos shown on the channel. The 64th to be exact. I would say besides Video Killed the Radio Star, this was the first iconic music video on the channel. And even then, the Buggles hit was mostly known for being the first video shown. Once in a Lifetime, meanwhile, has managed as both song and video to have non-stop popularity, being considered one of the best rock songs of the 1980s and one of the best music videos of all time. It has been used for pop culture, being referenced on TV shows like The Muppets, Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down, letting the days go by, water flowing underground, The Simpsons.
You may ask yourself,
how do I work this?
and you may ask yourself,
Where is that large automobile?
Billy and Mandy,
This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife.
Same as it ever was, 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 same as it ever was.
and also this movie starring Tom Hanks in 2016 I never knew about until looking up references to this song.
You may find yourself living in your garden shack, and you may find yourself not at home in your home. Let the water hold me down. Water flowing underground.
Just an odd way to open a movie. Even on the internet, the video has achieved meme status. Whether it could be through fan art, adding them into other memes, making GIFs, being referenced in web shows such as Ina, even being recreated shot for shot through Source Filmmaker with the G-Man in Half-Life. This video has achieved legendary status in its 40 years of life. So, what is this video about? Whenever you see Once in a Lifetime get brought up, there's a talk about the bizarre nature of the video, basically watching someone doing sporadic movements in front of a camera. One particular quote from Time magazine for their list of best music videos does seem to encapsulate a real simplicity about said video. Quote, "In the video, the singer dances around like a demented marionette, jerking his arms and crouching into a ball, then swimming through a fake blue sea. He's joined by a chorus of Byrnes in the background who mimic him. Or is he mimicking them? It does seem to be the appeal of the bizarre nature of this video that captivates people. You are watching someone dance in a seemingly improvised manner that has no real coherent reasoning. All the while looking to have been shot so cheaply, Byrne's glasses must have cost more than the video's budget. Now before getting to the making of the video, I want to briefly talk about how the song got made. During the Remain in Light sessions, the song was made in an unorthodox manner. When making a song, usually you write the lyrics, write the arrangement, go to the recording booth, boom, song made, next track. What they did instead was take part in jam sessions, playing beats and sounds and picking the best of the bunch and have them be played on repetition. Byrne himself compared this process to modern looping and sampling. Notably the bass line, which is essentially the backbone of the song, was made due to bassist Tina Weymouth hearing drummer Chris Franz, who was also her husband, yell something to her, to which she played it back on her bass. This style of music making was just throwing things against the wall and seeing what would stick. Originally, legendary producer Brian Eno was not into the track and it was almost abandoned.
It wasn't one of Brian Eno's favorite tracks that we were working on, and there was so emotion to just abandon this one. But I thought, there's something about this. I'm sure I can write words to it that it's going to make this work and pull it together.
Inspired by the call and response style of American evangelists on the radio, Byrne produced a half-spoken, half-song vocal performance. And thus was born a song about living in a shotgun shack and letting water hold you down. When this album was released in 1980, Once in a Lifetime was not released as a single for promotion. Instead, it was given to the other track, Cross-Eyed and Painless. And with that came their first music video. Frankly, this probably made sense at the time. Once in a Lifetime does not come off as a song that would be successful as a single, let alone a single in general. Personally, I do not think Cross-Eyed and Painless is that great of a song under Talking Heads' discography. And the video is... What is happening in this video? I honestly have no clue what is going on throughout the video. The members of Talking Heads made it clear they did not want to be in it, as, well, Byrne told the director to disregard any story they may have gotten from the lyrics and do their own interpretation. So what was done instead was the dancers had their say in their own choreography and did whatever they wanted to in the video. Now the final output is fine, as the dancing is well done, but it's overall unfocused. You see random scenes of dancing in a white room and then out on the streets. Occasionally, special effects are thrown here and there. I know it wants to tell a story, but I don't know what that is. Just an odd experiment that does not hold up well. Another issue I have with the video is how long it is. The original song clocks in at 4 minutes 48 seconds. The music video, meanwhile, is at 5 minutes 37 seconds. A mere minute more, and you have a video that just overstays its welcome. At least we get to see a moonwalk get done before Michael Jackson. Overall, the song performed decently, peaking at number 20 on the US dance charts, but not cracking the top 100 in any way. But what mattered was that Byrne was impressed by what the director did with Cross-Eyed and Painless and asked to have her co-direct the next video with him.
It's like 60 minutes on acid.
And sure enough, the video was to be Once in a Lifetime, the next single off the album, in 1981. 4 months after Remain in Light's release.
You may say to yourself, my God!
As mentioned before, David Byrne was one director, and the co-director is very familiar for a lot of fans of one-hit wonder music of the 80s, Tony Basil. Yes, while Tony Basil was mostly known for her 1982 #1 hit, Hey Mickey, her main occupation was rather appropriate for the filming of the video. Basil is a choreographer, having been in the business since the 1960s, appearing in movies for Elvis Presley and the Monkees.
Next. A brief but memorable moment in Viva Las Vegas.
She can do the dog all night long.
You're the girl in the red dress. You were also the assistant choreographer in the film.
Even now, she still has her hand in creating dance moves for movies released as recently as Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
She taught Leonardo DiCaprio the 60s dance, known as the pony.
So with a well-established choreographer involved with these videos, that should mean that the dancing in the video was not at all improvised and was well thought out and calculated. And that is the case, but it wasn't necessarily because of Basil. Just a pinch of Basil helped.
You want to see it? No, but do you have anything to eat?
As she puts it, quote, David kind of choreographed himself. I set up the camera, put him in front of it, and asked him to absorb his ideas. Then I left the room so he could be alone with himself. I came back, looked at the videotape, and we chose physical moves that worked with the music. I just helped to stylize his moves a little. Even with that quote that pretty much gives props to David in terms of how he did his dancing, Basil made sure Byrne's movements were refined. And watching the video, there is a lot of preciseness seen in the execution of the moves he makes. It's all fine-tuned and meticulous, sharp, not lazy. It matches to the song very well. She even used an old-fashioned zoom lens to emphasize his jerky moves to make it seem more quirky and wild. I can't help but praise Toni Basil on her keen eye at choreography. How Byrne came up with his dances throughout was done by doing research. Both he and Basil went through archive footage of things such as preachers, evangelists, people in trances, African tribes, Japanese religious sects, and many others. You can definitely see that be used, both in terms of inspiration and of actual use in the video. One person I've seen get cited as an inspiration was evangelist Ernest Angley. Known for his sermons and preaching since the 1950s, before his death in 2021 at age 99. And watching his body movements in some of his sermons, you can definitely see the influence he had for some of the moves. Other things about the production is how there was basically no budget to the video. It was shot as low-tech as they could while making it presentable to be seen on television. And you can definitely tell from the white setting and the use of green screening to have multiple Byrnes be seen in the background. It's cheap. No doubt about it. But that's not a negative mark on the video. It instead gives it a very memorable charm, makes it its own thing, and definitely ends up being very iconic in its own right. Come to think of it, this, Cross-Eyed and Painless, and later Hey Mickey are all set in a white setting. Were these all shot in the same area? Honestly, that seems to be all to the music video in terms of production. It seems to overall be a rather basic production for a rather basic music video. But that can't be it, right? There has to be more here. So let's start from the beginning once more. What is the song about?
What do the words of your songs mean to you? I mean, you don't write love songs, do you? I try to write about small things. Paper, animals, a house.
Despite the trivial need to, there have been critics that gave meaning to the song. Examples include consumerism, the greed of yuppies, even claims it's a song about having an existential crisis. Byrne has since rejected the claim the song is about yuppies and made it clear that the song is instead about the unconscious.
We're largely unconscious. We operate half awake or on autopilot and end up whatever with a house and family and job and everything else, and we haven't really stopped to ask ourselves, how did I get here?
That explanation does still give credence to the possibility that the song is about an existential crisis. Figuring out that you've been living your life on autopilot and not trying to figure out how that happened. So let's apply that to the video and say the video is about just that. People living their lives unconsciously. So how does the video do that? All we see is David Byrne dancing about to the audience. Well, let's think about the inspirations for both the song and the video. For both, American evangelists were used as a basis for Byrne's dance style and manner of singing the song. So let's assume that Byrne is playing a preacher. He's wearing a suit like one, his vocal delivery is bass and makes him sound like one.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack.
And I guess you can argue that he's moving about as a preacher, albeit in an exaggerated manner. So like a preacher. So what does a preacher do? Well, preach, of course. In this case, preaching to people that they are unconscious. But he doesn't have an audience, per se. At least not in the video. Instead, his audience is us, actually. He is presenting his sermon to us, the audience. And in the exaggerated mannerisms that he is showing the people what they look like in life. Mindless zombies walking around looking like a member of the Ministry of Silly Walks. It might be far-fetched, but there's an interesting quote Byrne made during the Stop Making Sense self-interview that relates to this idea.
It's like 60 minutes on acid.
No, not that one.
Music is very physical, and often the body understands it before the head.
The mindset Byrne has about music seems to have been used in making the song and the video. There was so much focus on the dancing that you can see this video as being interpretive dance. The fact that Byrne doesn't showcase much of a facial expression has his feelings be shown through his choreography. The means of seeing fear, confusion, exhaustion through his moves. All the while his face is stoic and emotionless. Granted, that seems to be a trademark for Byrne in general. But still, there are some oddities throughout the video that might need some explanation. Like, who is holding Byrne's head during the Same As It Ever Was bridge? What exactly is the water supposed to be? Where is that large automobile? And what I think is the most unexplained is the ending to the video. At the end you see Byrne sitting in front of a black background and not wearing his suit or glasses. He looks to have everything figured out, has his composure, everything is under control. He is nothing like the Byrne we have seen earlier. Except he might be. Maybe he is the same person. Byrne in the beginning is the preacher, and the Byrne at the end is what he really is like. He has figured out how to get out of his routine of doing the same things over and over and over unconsciously. He is now telling people that this is happening to them as well.
You're fired. Wait a second. Did you all see where the red here? Hey, pizza. You're fired.
Otherwise, they will have the water consume them and forever be stuck in the same rut until it's too late. But the dear preacher never tells them the solution, for he was never told himself and yet solved his dilemma. And so he is helping others become aware, but not helping them too much so they can receive their own independence. So that's probably what the video is about.
Am I right? Am I wrong?
Or this video could just all be surface and they wanted to make a video with weird but well choreographed dancing that ended up being quirky enough to amass an appeal 40 years strong. It's possible. Sometimes the curtains are just blue, as they say, and that is completely fine. Even if this video is just what it is, it's absolutely charming at what it goes for. There's a feeling of earnestness and effort in the making of this video, especially on a shoestring budget. And personally, this is one of my favorite songs of all time. I've always had fond memories listening to this song as a kid, hearing it in car rides, not being entirely sure what the singer was going on about. It's an incredible song to listen to. At least, in my opinion. So whether or not I am wrong or right about there being some kind of hidden message, what matters is this is a very beloved and praised music video that does deserve every amount of accolades it has received over the years. So with that being said, I do want to end this video on one more thing about the song itself. Before the Remaining Lights sessions began, there was a chance that Talking Heads were going to break up. Or at least half the members leave. Tina Weymouth and Chris Franz debated on leaving the group and doing their own thing as they thought Byrne was too controlling. It's easy to believe that, especially considering in this entire video I put the utmost focus on David Byrne than any other member of the group. And while they did form the Tom Tom Club as a side project in 1981, they still stayed members of Talking Heads. Yet when it came time to record a new album, there was a realization that it was their singer that wrote the songs for all the previous sessions. A change of strategy had to be made. As Byrne put it, they were sacrificing their egos for mutual cooperation. and thus the jam sessions and the other unconventional ways of making their songs were implemented. If anything, you can argue that Remain in Light was made during a period of existential crisis for the group, needing to adapt to a different way of producing their music as a necessity, at least the possibility of the band's breakup. It does make it seem feasible that the creation of songs like Once in a Lifetime was made in response to this tension. I could also be looking way too much into things again, but what really matters is that this period helped the band on the course of not only being commercially successful, but helped solidify their status as one of the greatest rock acts of all time.